For Boston area teenagers who are too young to drive or don't have access to a car, the MBTA is crucial to connecting them with friends or transporting them to after-school jobs. A monthly T-Pass for middle and high school students will soon cost just $26 compared to $75 for a standard monthly pass. But now some youth activists are demanding a more flexible, less expensive monthly pass for riders 12 to 21 years old. The group Youth Affordability Coalition, or YAC, is calling for unlimited youth T access for just $10 a month.
It's not something we want, it's something we need. I see kids stranded every day at train stations. I see bus drivers kicking kids off the bus because they don't have funds.
21 activists were arrested for trespassing yesterday after staging a sit-in outside the Office of Transportation Secretary Richard Davey. I'm joined now by one of those protesters who was released yesterday on $40 bail. David Jenkins is the director of the Roxbury Environmental Empowerment Project. Welcome to Greater Boston.
Thank you very much for having me.
So tell me a little bit about what happened yesterday. Why were you arrested?
Well, what happened yesterday was we went to meet with Secretary of Transportation Richard Davey around noon. There were 30 of us that went inside, so it was a group of high school students, young adults, and adult supporters like myself. And we stayed there until about 7 p.m. when the state police arrested about 21 of us and took us off to jail.
Now, had you tried to have a legitimate meeting with him before instead of demanding a meeting?
Yes, actually, we gave him a letter on May 8th, and we were waiting for a response. And the word that we were getting from people in the MBTA administration was that we weren't going to be getting a response that would move forward on the issue, and we were waiting. And so we decided that we needed to do something to really open up the conversation directly.
Okay, so this new thing that's going into place is you're actually getting a 65% discount from what you get right now. Come September 1st, the monthly fare is actually going down. It's going to cover 7 days a week as opposed to 5. That's a pretty good start. 65% lower increase?
Yeah, for the 16,000 Boston Public School students and a few thousand other students around outside of Greater Boston, the student pass is a great thing. It opens their access to transportation during the school year. Now, not even all Boston Public School students receive a student pass. In fact, there are thousands of those students that that don't have free transportation to school. So, for example, the policy right now for BPS is that if you live within 2 miles, you don't get that pass. And so for one student that lives in the South End and maybe goes to South Boston High School, that means that they're walking across the highway to get to school. And then beyond that, there's thousands of other young people who are trying to enter the workforce, trying to be in alternative education, a workforce training or GED, and they have no discounted access. They're paying $75 a month to get there.
All right, let's bring in Dr. Beverly Scott to respond to some of these claims. She's general manager of the MBTA. So why not make this more across the board? Why limit it to people who, why restrict people who can walk to a school? Why not just let all school students have it?
Well, the decision in terms of what winds up happening with the coverage on a student pass through the schools is really the school's decision, okay? But I tell you, so first thing I want to make a couple of things. One, this is by no stretch of the imagination been a missing in action administration as it comes to the issues in terms of any of the pass, whether it's Mass Senior Action, Youth Affordability Coalition. Unfortunately, and I don't want to, I have a deep respect for folks for activism, but I want to make it very clear that my secretary was out of town, okay? And so, unfortunately, when the students came, we were very clear about the fact that Secretary Davey was not there, and he wasn't going to be there through this week. And I came down, more than happy to have conversation, as we have been very actively engaged with the students. This is not a new issue, okay? And so, with the deepest of respect, like I said, this is not an MIA group. Now, coming back to this, and we have been very much engaged because every single group that we have, and we know we have tremendous advocates, but at the end of the day, we have seniors who have asked for rollbacks in terms of fares. We have youth that want to basically be able to pay minimal amounts. And these are always about equity and what's sustainable for our overall transportation system over time. And so what we've said is that you can't, the easiest thing in the world would be to just throw out these little pilot programs that really have, that honestly have not been well thought out or grounded. And quite candidly, we have said that we're just not going to do that. Okay.
DT's $8 billion in debt. Do you just not care about that?
No, actually, we care very much about that. And actually, our coalition formed because we had been working on this several groups for 7 years that we've been talking about trying to actually open access for young people to be able to afford to ride to school and work and other things. And when the drastic fare hikes were proposed in 2012, the 100% increase on or more on students, seniors, and the disabled riders, as well as the hikes on the general fares, our coalition came together and worked very hard to bring more additional revenue into the T. So, for example, teenagers from our coalition placed thousands of calls to legislators to open up the door to actually fix the transportation funding system. And now the T gets about $150 million per year additional in new revenue. And the pilot that we're asking for is not a huge thing. The reason why we went in yesterday was two things: to talk to Secretary Davey, which we knew he was out of town, but we asked, could we talk to him on the phone while we're here? And he didn't want to talk to us. And the second thing was to actually start the pilot that he committed to a few years ago, and the price of which would be less than 1/3 of 1% of the new $150 million that we work so hard with other people to bring into the T.
Want to respond to that, Pamela?
Well, what I'll say is that, number one, I've never seen anything that was any commitment to wind up, in fact, doing a youth pass without us being able to readily identify what would, in fact, wind up being the source to help to fund that. The original work that was done showed that we might be looking at as much as anywhere up to $27 million in terms of lost revenue. I want to be real clear about what fares mean for this system. It's roughly $600 million in terms of what comes into the system that comes from fares. At the end of the day, someone pays, okay, and by the time you wind up discounting, so this is really very much a community conversation. At the end of the day, someone pays. I have all due respect for activism, but quite candidly, if somebody is able to afford a Rolls Royce, and I'm not trying to suggest that there are not those who are in need at many levels, but to say that one has a right of passage or a right of entry to simply say because one is of a particular age, that they should in fact wind up being able to have unabashedly almost free service when there are others that are out there that are struggling every day that don't happen to have that particular banner. I think that this is truly something that needs to be thought through with whole cloth. That is a community, that is much more of a community decision. We have seniors who have issues. We have people who are I could be 34 years old and sitting up trying to do everything I could.
Can I say?
All right, I got to wrap it, but quickly.
Yeah, can I say, it is a community conversation, and there's people on the outside there were seniors, people who work for the T, the union members, and a whole host of groups that are saying, you know what? If anything, we want the T to be affordable for young people to get to key opportunities and take advantage of them in the region. And so that's why we're there, to make a T that's actually an opportunity, like my T-shirt says.
A discussion is probably better than a demand, but that's just my advice. All right, David Jenkins, Beverly Scott, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And